You are listening to the Freedom Podcast with Van Moody. Our desire is that you begin to live in freedom every day. Freedom in your mind, freedom in your finances, freedom from the external pressures of life. Prepare to be transformed as we seek to be free, mind, body, and soul. Let's get started.
Hey family, thanks for joining us on the Freedom Podcast. This is always an honor and a joy every time we get a chance to come together. I love this podcast. I love what we've been able to accomplish. I love the community that's built around this incredible podcast. If you are new to the Freedom Podcast, then it's important that you understand that on this podcast, we cover a variety of topics that pertain to life, freedom, fulfillment, everything that you need to really live the best life that God intended for you. And that's why every month we cover one of the most important topics on this podcast, and really one of the most important topics that pertains to living a life of purpose, and that is financial freedom. Because we know we can't really effectively talk about freedom and purpose and fulfillment without dealing with the elephant in the room, and that is finances. And so thanks for being a part of this Freedom Podcast. Let me also take a second to thank all of our partners. We are so thankful for you, whether you are a Freedom Funder or Freedom Champion. It is because of you that we are able to bring just value-added content like the Freedom Podcast, and that we're also able to have some absolutely just impressive guests. I was going to say guests that actually blow our minds, because often they do. But these are guests and leaders in the space that have been such a value add to all of our conversations, particularly on finances and a host of other topics. So let's jump right in today. First and foremost, I always love to welcome my co-host with the most, all the way from LA, my brother from another mother, Pastor George Thompson. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Hey, family, I'm just trying to stay dry over here in California. Just want to let you know that I'm excited about this podcast and our guest today, because we're going to go to a whole nother level. Let's go.
A whole nother level. George, have you built your ark yet, man?
I know. You know what? I was praying about that the other day in the different areas. But we needed this water, and water, there comes growth, just like what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. You are correct. Hey, family, I'm super excited because I got another brother from another mother, Bishop DeAndre Salter, who is one of my dearest friends. He's a spiritual brother. He's a friend. He's a voice of wisdom in my life financially. And I'm blessed because there is almost nothing that I do financially without talking to Bishop DeAndre Salter and my co-host, George Thompson. So I'm blessed to just be in the presence of both of them. But Bishop Salter, thank you so much for being with us on the day, all the way from NJ, New Jersey, man. It's cold up there. How you doing today, brother?
It's cold, but we're always warm on the inside, man, because God is doing something incredible every single day, and I don't want to miss it. Man, thank you guys so much. I love both of you. Let me just say this before we start. What you guys are doing is an incredible work. I really love to see pastors get involved in financial empowerment and financial literacy. It is such a great work of the kingdom that you're doing. And so thank you for doing what you do with the Freedom Podcast and having me as a guest.
Oh, man, well, we are super excited. Your book, The Culture of Money, is still the standard and the staple. In addition to, George's 21-day financial fast, we use both of those books as a part of our financial discipleship curriculum. And I know you got a brand new education curriculum that hopefully we're going to talk about in the wealth track. But today, topic-wise, we're going to talk about 3 money moves that people ought to be making this very moment. I have always been blessed to stay connected to all of the work that you do around money and finance and the culture of money. And you published recently an article or blog post that really blew me away when you were talking about 3 money moves that everybody ought to be thinking about. And I said, man, we got to get you to come on the podcast and talk about it. And I'll tell you, when I initially read your blog post, my mind immediately went to Genesis 47. Genesis 47 serves as, I think, a very interesting biblical backdrop. The famine set in. But what's interesting is when the famine hits, Joseph begins to make moves. And it's the moves that Joseph makes that not only positions Pharaoh and Egypt for economic growth and prosperity, but really positions Joseph and his family, who we know are the nation of Israel, to be provided for and to be blessed when everybody else was hit hard economically. And I think that that's really the heart and spirit of what you're trying to get people to understand. There are some individuals that look at, an inflationary kind of environment, just ups and downs with the stock market, and they get scared. But there are mavens like you who recognize that, this is the time when we need to be making some very strategic moves. And so I'm super excited for you to be on the podcast today to walk us through what are those money moves that we need to be making so we can kind of be like the tribe of Issachar and understand the signs of the times and what Israel must do.
I love your setup, but let's before we even jump into that, I just want to add just one thing because you brought up something very important. Whatever we're going to talk about today, we have to lean into the fact that moves have to be made. Like there must be faith to make moves because in that Genesis 47, certainly Joseph made moves in the famine, but what set him up to make moves in the famine was the moves he made before the famine. And so
So
how he
good.
coached and guided Pharaoh into saving. Basically, Joseph creates the savings principle.
Yep.
And so when times were well, he built grain houses and warehouses to store grain. And so thus he was able to literally corner the market on the price of grain for the region for Pharaoh, which gave Pharaoh immense wealth when the famine came to basically using the basic investment principle. He brought low and he sold high.
Exactly.
So in other words, what I'm saying is
So
part of
good.
what we can do before we even get into three things is get the right mindset to even see these three things and to have the faith to be able to move. Family, listen to me. I need you to move before things happen, not after things happen.
Come on,
You
man.
got to anticipate markets. You can't wait till the market leaves you behind and then on FOMO jump into it, whatever you're going to do. That all the returns have been extrapolated by the time you figured it out late.
Right.
So what we're calling for first, before we even give you these three moves, is the faith to move. When we say move, and the awareness and the intellect and the studying of the markets to anticipate these moves, so that you are taking full advantage of market cycles and not getting on the tail end. Did I say too much? I'm sorry. I want to jump in there too soon.
No, but it's very interesting that we're having this conversation, but also again, great setup, Bishop Van. But it was a great setup. But if you remember in 2020, we did the money moves to make during the pandemic, and I want to let the record reflect what you said, and then I'll say something about what I said about that. That now look at companies. Remember we talked about companies that can do well during the pandemic. Look who can do in this type of economic cycle. That God opens up opportunities for us. We just have to be able to walk through the door that is presented to us. So we have to be good stewards over what we have to be in a position to be able to walk through. But go ahead. I want the record to reflect. We've done this before, and we were right. Go ahead.
Hey, no, listen. Set the record straight, Pastor. Flesh and blood had not revealed those things.
Right.
We talked about it. 2020.
Right.
That's right. That's right. But listen, on the first thing I want to talk about is back to anticipating the moves in the market, and I think you guys can recognize this. So, what has been making people discombobulated is the inflationary environment that we've been in. Right. But again, here's the move to make that I'm really urging people to make right now. The pendulum on inflation is getting ready to switch, right? Because the Federal Reserve cannot bring the economy to a screeching halt. At some point, money supply must increase back into the economy. And the way to do that is you have to lower interest rates before the economy completely stalls out, or you create what's called stagflation, okay, where everything is kind of flatlined. And those are both inflation and stagflation, or worst case scenarios to be sustained. So rates will be lowered. Now, I don't know when, but it will be at some point in this year lowered. All the signals from the Fed are that they're going to manage it a little bit longer, maybe keep it steady for maybe the next meeting. But I would suspect the meeting after that or so, we're going to start to see rates come down. Now, what does that mean? Why is this important to the everyday person? Well, when the federal funds rate increases or decreases, it affects the rates we pay for auto loans. It affects the rates we pay for mortgages, for credit cards. Here's the good news that you need to anticipate. What you need to think about is refinancing as rates reduce. As rates reduce, it's time to start refinancing out of high interest debt and get your interest rates down as rates come down. Now, many of you, maybe you've had to take an auto loan. I get it. You had a new job. They reopened the office. You had to commute. But if you got that loan in the last 12 months, the rate was significantly higher than 24 months ago. Okay. Maybe you had to buy a home in the last year. Okay. And I commend you for all those who told you to sit on the sidelines. You did the right thing because real estate prices might not come down for a while. And you can never anticipate markets. So you did the right thing. But you may have paid 6.5%, 7% on that mortgage. You may have an opportunity by the end of this year to knock a point or two off of that mortgage, or at least by the beginning of next year. And you want to be in position. So what do you need to do? Start working on your credit.
Come on.
Get your credit together. Don't miss any payments. Okay. And begin to identify in a cascading fashion your highest rates to your lowest rates, and start getting yourself together financially, making sure you increase your savings so that when you look at your loan application, you have your debts in line, you have good savings that prove that you can repay the loan, because refinancing is the same as the first loan. They're going to look at your present financial situation. And I want you guys to get yourself in position because rates are going to drop. And that's the first thing you need to do. So the way I talk about these moves, pastors, is listen, this is the low level. We're going to get intermediate and more advanced, but this one everybody can do. Refinance as rates reduce.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. So number one, we ought to refinance because we know that rates are going to drop. What do you recommend then is that second move? What do you think we ought to do number two? If we're going to refinance, we build our cash savings so that we can take advantage of the ability to refi and make those moves. What do you consider to be the second important move that we ought to make?
Okay, the second move, and I say again, this is intermediate, because obviously if I'm in level one of my finances, which is I'm still trying to reduce my expenses and get my budget together and pay off my debts so I can get some margin, this move may not be for me, but that first move is. The second move is for those who have some margin, you have some savings. Perhaps in the last 12 or so months, as the rates have increased, you did the right thing. You might have moved some money into cash. Maybe you built savings by putting money into a high interest rate savings account, right? There have been rates in the 3.5% to 5% range. I even have an account with a 5.5% high yield interest rate account. Wonderful account. And those are great ways to boost savings while the rates are high. But again, watch this. Interest rate reduction works both ways. So while it may reduce the rates we pay on loans, it will also reduce the rates we get on savings. So what is smart money doing right now? Well, smart money for the last 12 months have actually been moving money from cash into equities, right? So you got to go into the stock market. Now, let me speak to this. When we say stock market, I want to be clear on what the market is. Oftentimes, Pastor Bishop Moody, you mentioned in your introduction about people being nervous about the stock market's volatility. Okay, partly that's because people don't understand what the market is.
Come on, man.
So what they're reading is maybe a swing in the Dow, which is an index, or the S&P, which is an index, but that's not the market. Those are a compilation of stocks that are tracked as an index, which are part of the market, but not the overall market. So in other words, the Dow can go up and down, but the overall market may be doing better than the Dow. The S&P can have volatility, but the overall market may not be experiencing the same exact volatility. Certainly there's correlation, but I want us to be careful when we just read, oh, the Dow went down today, for us to say, oh, the market is volatile. The Dow could be volatile, but value stocks may be doing great. Okay, so there are segments within the market, and these indexes are one thing. So I want to make that very clear. But moving money into stocks is where we go. And I want to use the KISS principle. Y'all know what KISS means. Keep it simple, stupid. It ain't that difficult. You don't have to pick stocks. You don't have to be a maven like Pastor George Thompson who could pick these stocks in his sleep. Bishop Moody calls me up, and he's basically an analyst for Goldman Sachs. With the way he breaks down stocks, so you don't have to be like these guys. You could be like me, just a regular old guy. And here's what you do. Index funds. That's why I wanted to teach you what index was versus what the market was. index funds are where everybody can begin, right? So what an index fund does is take a compilation of stocks that just mirror an index, such as the S&P 500 or the Dow. Now, here's where folks have missed out. You've had all of last year and even through this year, great returns in the market that many people missed out for. Back to where we were earlier, anticipating and not getting on it late. There's still much headroom ahead of us because as rates drop down, the economy is in a pretty healthy position. Mid-level companies, value companies are doing phenomenal right now. So, and don't get swayed by what's happening with the big tech companies, right? The alphabet stocks. Those are only like 7 major stocks. Overall, there's a lot of value in the market, and you're going to see great returns if you get some money out of cash and put some money into the market.
Oh man, George, he's talking your language, brother.
He is, but also, Bishop Salter. One of the things that we talk about is like I had the opportunity to listen to Wayne Gretzky speak one time, and it was really interesting meeting him because he wasn't a big guy, and he said, I wasn't the biggest guy, and he said, I made my living by not skating to where the puck is, but I skated to where the puck is going. And one of the things, and as we talked earlier about Joseph, was Joseph planned in order, and then he was able to buy low and sell high, or he had the resources. So when people are investing, and just repeating kind of what you're saying, like in their retirement, or they're investing to look at companies there's companies that actually do well, you're saying thrive in difficult times, like that can do well in high inflation, high interest, and in times like that, high interest. And then also what's going on around the world. They call it geopolitical risk on TV and everything. But you're saying what's going on in Ukraine and Israel and just going on in election year. There's different things. But there are companies that do well irregardless, like just in those areas, like we said, value stocks. And then just so you guys know, so we're speaking your language, value are like dividend paying companies, like a Costco, like a Target, like a Walmart, just regular companies like that and different things in that nature. So it's just really good and refreshing for you to say that. And then I want to bounce back to something you said earlier and have you comment on that. I want to just give you my reflection on that. You said earlier about how you can refinance later when interest rates go. If you bought a home, because we said this on previous shows, Bishop Moody, is that buy a home. Let's say you bought a home right now, and I'm talking California now, and your mortgage was like $4,000 a month or $5,000. Let's say it's $5,000 a month. Now, when you refinance and it's $4,000, don't take that $1,000 and just spend it. You can use that to pay down the mortgage quicker. So you're stacking these 3 money moves to actually move to even higher by utilizing that extra margin to pay down debt or to invest. Which one of the two do you think they should do, Bishop Salter?
Well, it's a no-brainer for me. The interest rate you're paying on debt is by far your greatest return on investment. Getting out of debt is a great return on investment, and people often miss that because, again, you just have to look at your ROI. It's simple, people. If I'm paying 28% on an interest rate on a credit card, it's pretty hard, even in a great market, to earn 28%
after taxes.
Right. After taxes, yeah, it's pretty hard. Okay, so that would be an outstanding outlier year because historically, over a 30-year period, the market pretty much hovers around a 10% return on investment. Okay, so you're technically earning 28% on your money if you pay down a 28% interest rate card. So always get out of debt because getting out of debt is going to create more margin. And, man, listen, don't overlook the word margin. Margin is fun.
Come on.
Listen, margin lowers your stress. Margin increases your faith. Margin is more fun. Margin makes vacations better. Margin gets you a better house, a better car. Y'all better get in with this margin game and stop playing around with that stress game. Margin is everything because with margin, you can make not just these 3 moves. I got 30 more for you if you have margin. So always choose to get out of debt path. But certainly, like I said, from an intermediate level, if you've already graduated past that, we need to be more invested in the market. And there's these great opportunities. George, let me add on one more thing. Pastor George, because you mentioned value, right? And look for market. Hey, you didn't hear from anybody but me. if you want to talk about what's devalued right now, I know people are afraid because of the volatility, and they got hammered really hard in 2022. Tech stocks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Listen, if you look at the balance sheets, the alphabet stocks are doing extremely well. They're not doing as well as they were in 2021 in terms of revenues, but the cycle of what AI is going to do, machine learning, all the different investments that they're making in those type of things, the future of those companies, you're gonna miss stock splits and everything. You're gonna sit back a couple years from now, and you could have gotten some of these big profile tech stocks, Apple, Google, at depressed values, and you sat around and said, "Oh, but the price is too high. It's $100 a share." Well, guess what? It's going to be $400 a share in a few years, splitting down to $100 a share,
Right.
and those could all been your gains.
Right.
Oh man.
And by the
This
way,
is
we're not giving out stock recommendations, but now
Not
you
giving out
started it.
stocks
You
yet.
started. You
I
started
said
it. You
you
started.
didn't
So
hear
here we
from me.
here we go. Yes.
You
So
didn't
here
hear
we go
from
with
me.
the money moves. Okay. So now here we go. Is if you look at it, the reason why you see, and then I'm gonna ask you why you think they went down. The reason why tech stocks are taking a breather is in 2020 they were hitting the ball out the park so hard.
Come on.
Amazon on your street. I was on your street. All the people listen to this podcast. I was on your street. There were 2 Amazon trucks on your street at the same time. You know what type of volume Amazon was doing? You know what type of Apple was making? What they were making a quarterly results like $50 billion while they were close. You could even go into a location.
Yeah.
Fast moving. They were just going through drive-throughs, taking your money, and then throwing food out the window to you. Those were incredibly profitable things. And then you can't expect them to make the same profit in 2022 as they were in 2020 because now people can go outside and have choices, but they can still grow. That's a growth
Yeah.
company. Somebody
The
20%
pandemic did it. You are 100%. All the money supply, and look, let's call it like it is. Money supply means there was a lot of money pumped into the economy by the federal government. There was some PPP money. There were support mechanisms from the government to uphold families. Right, all that money came in. We were sitting at home. We had nothing else to do. So certainly that drove up revenues and values.
Yeah.
And so they're still doing well, but that was a historically unprecedented season that we hope, praise God, I hope we never repeat that again for a pandemic. But economically, it'll be hard for any company to replicate the numbers of that season.
Yeah, man, this is so good. All right, let's pause for a quick, word from one of our sponsors, and then we're going to come back and get into what this third important piece is by way of this money move. You're listening to the Freedom Podcast, and we are so honored to have you. We'll be right back.
Introducing A Year to a Better You, the transformative devotional that guides you on a year-long journey of self-discovery. Each day, you will learn more about God, His Word, and yourself. A Year to a Better You features a daily devotional and a soap journal perfectly paired to help you learn more about transformation and transparency as Christ followers, your freedom and identity in Christ, and most of all, the power that you have because of His faithful love. Visit vanmoody.org today and start your journey with a new year to a better you.
All right, friends, we're back with my co-host, Pastor George Thompson, Bishop DeAndre Salter, and we've been talking about 3 important money moves that you need to be making right now. We've talked about a lot more than 3 money moves, but Bishop Salter has given us what those 2 important money moves are, and I'm super excited for us to get into the third money move. All right, Bishop, you told us that obviously, even before we get to the money moves, we got to have the faith and the mentality to want to make the moves. But then you talked about refinancing, paying down debt, investing in the market. What do you think is that third most important money move that we need to make?
I love the progression of this. So we're going from basic move to intermediate move, invest in the market, and now we're going to an advanced move, right? And so again, this is a move that works best for those who created margin, you made some investments. But it also can work for anybody. And number 3 is near and dear to my heart because this is how God blessed me. You have to diversify your income streams. Listen, in my book, The Culture of Money, I made a clear case that most people don't have a budgeting problem. I actually don't teach budgeting the traditional way. I really don't. I teach budgeting. I reverse engineer budgeting by teaching about income building. Because if you look at America over the last 30 years, not just this inflationary period, but even prior to that, we had wage stagflation, where people just weren't getting increases on their jobs for a 20-year period. Okay. So what has developed is the cost of America has gone up tremendously. Okay. And wages have not kept up with it. So I've always argued we've had more of a income problem than an expense problem. Because even if you are a great financier, you know, if your income stays the same, you're going to have more financial stress. And so we need to now begin to pivot and shift. And I know you do a lot of this at your church, Bishop Moody, and out there where you are, Pastor George. This is near and dear to your heart. We have to buy into creating multiple streams of income. Examples: having a full-time job and a rental portfolio to draw income from a rental portfolio. Having a full-time job and a part-time job. If it make it work. Having a full-time job and a side hustle where you're contracting your services out as an independent contractor. There's no other way to talk about it other than that. You need more income as this economy is becoming more expensive for us all to maintain. Just one level of income is not going to do it for most people. And by the way, I'm speaking to the executive making $200,000 a year. You're not making enough.
Wow.
I know you're not making enough. I'm dealing with you. I know you're not making enough because many of you guys can't even afford to make serious investments because you don't have the margin. And so you too, this applies to you too, as well as the hourly worker making 30,000 or 300,000. There's just not enough income, and we all could use to diversify into income streams.
Let me tell you why I love that. I had my first financial mentor was a guy by the name of Rick Cook. He was the son-in-law of a wealthy gentleman who started Atlanta Life Insurance Company in Atlanta. He was one of the early Black multimillionaires. Well, Rick married his daughter. Jesse Hill was the founder and creator of Atlanta Life Insurance. And Rick and his wife lived down the street from my dad. And, you know, one summer I was in high school and Rick drove by, saw me cutting grass in the front yard of my dad's house. And he said, "Hey, man, your dad told me that you want to go into ministry." And my father was not supportive of that, thought it was a bad decision. You know, my dad was like, "Man, you're not going to make no money," you know, all that kind of stuff. And Rick said, "Well, here's what I want to do. I want to mentor you in business." He says, "Because there are too many preachers that know the word of God, but they don't know how to help our people in business." And so Rick was a serial entrepreneur. He owned several Mrs. Winners. He had a mortgage company. He had several, you know, pretty large real estate portfolio. And he would just take me around, take me to his meetings and stuff like that. But he gave me a list of books to read that summer. And, you know, the very first book he put in my hand was called Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen.
Yep, I read it.
Yeah.
That was the very first book. And he was teaching me then when I was in high school, this principle that you have just really put on the table about the importance of us, you know, diversifying our income, having multiple streams. So I love it, man. I love it. I love it. George, I know you anxious to jump in here, man.
Yeah. So just in what you're saying is that, and then obviously, you know, I live, just so everybody, so we're clear, I live in California. There, when we sit down and qualify for homes, and people are doing this, I was doing a podcast, and a gentleman said, he thought that the home values were phone numbers. So in other words, when it said 1213, he thought those were phone numbers. I'm like, no, it's 1.2 million. So you understand that a household that has kids that are trying to buy a home, they're trying to do this in an inflationary market and doing certain things. Your kids go to school or private school and all these different things. You need to have multiple streams of income. So what I would like to have us talk about next, and also I'm going to tee it up for you a little bit, Bishop Salter, is that finding things that are natural markets to you. Like I also own an investment. I have an investment firm, and all of my employees are all notaries. So they notarize our clients, but then they can also do things on the weekend or at night or other options. There are things that can happen. If you're If you do public speaking, you also may want to write books. You may want to like looking at things that are natural that you can stack on to what you already do that make it easy for you, as opposed to trying to do something completely different. You know what I mean? Like adding products to what you do at your restaurant are different, adding things to the menu. Like you
Yeah.
see how McDonald's started serving breakfast. You know what I mean? Like you can start to do things where they're very similar to what you're doing that can create revenue and everything. But I always thought California was the home of the side hustle because I mean, I think everybody has one when we do, because we actually at Faithful Central on Sundays, I think you guys have watched service, I count jobs every Sunday, and I count jobs, new businesses, and promotions, because also you want to look at you getting promoted to where you also make more income, or you're utilizing your skills in a different manner.
Yeah.
Bishop
Listen,
Salter?
God has given us, He's given us that power to gain wealth. So that means intrinsically there is a side hustle in us. There's the ability to do something beyond what we are normally doing. And I agree with you. It can grow out of the seed of where we already are. Let me tell you two quick stories, real quick. This is real quick. Number one, there's a young lady in our church. We have an accelerator program for entrepreneurs, and every spring we have an accelerator. We have funding for them, and it's basically to spur ideation. And so we teach on ideation, business planning. We bring in experts, and then they write a business plan based upon the formula we teach them. They submit it. The winning idea gets funding to test that idea in the marketplace, because we just want them to have the faith to test it. Now, watch this. The last competition winner had a simple idea. She was a stylist who specialized in hair loss, which is, by the way, great market, unique market, high demand. But she had an idea to expand, to your point, Pastor George, and just add a new product line of a certain type of hair that women could use that was just better, would also help their scalp and other things. And so she pitched it. It was a really creative idea. It was only a $2,500 funding opportunity for her, but she was able to take that $2,500 and create a $25,000 revenue stream.
Wow.
That's biblical.
Okay.
That's right out of Joseph. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's right out of Joseph. And to your point, it's adjacent. It's a product line. So that's an example of taking a product line to add revenue. Now, the other example is my example. Okay. So I was an underwriter in the insurance industry in what's called executive and professional lines. So I dealt with the CEOs, the Fortune 500, and I underwrote their boards of directors and things on the underwriting side. I eventually went over to the brokerage side to start a business. So that means I was the one interfacing with the clients, meeting with the C-suite executives to pitch them on the type of products they needed. Now, how did I make that transition? Well, my skills as an underwriter gave me the ability to understand the product well enough. So only thing I'm saying is I flipped the script. I bartered my gained knowledge and expertise in the field, and then began to create a business off of what I already knew, contacts that I already had, clients that I already knew in an industry where I already had instant credibility. So I was able to build that business, and over 20 years, I was able to exit from that business, sell that business for an insane multiple, and the rest is history. That very same option is available for us. We can take where we are, as you say, and grow, not just by our product line, but also by these other opportunities where we already have some sphere of influence.
Right.
Man, I love it. I love it. Okay, Bishop Salter, we're almost out of time, but you got to talk about the wealth track. And then when we get into kind of our bonus time for our partners, maybe we can get into another important money move, because there's so much that I want to pull from you. But before we close this podcast, we got to pitch the wealth track. I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to really help launch it at the Worship Center. Tell us about it, man. You've done it. You just told the story of how I love how you phrased it. You sold your business for an insane multiple. Amen. Yeah, he's the real deal, y'all. We're not playing over here. But at the same time, what I love is you have always dedicated your life to giving back to others. I know other highly successful, wealthy individuals that their mentality is, yo, I got mine, you got to go out and get yours some way. But that's never been you. You have a heart for our people and anybody that really wants to learn how to make these moves. And so you've created a whole curriculum called the Well Track. Tell us about it, because I know that our listeners want to take part in it and need to take part in it.
I really appreciate the opportunity for you to make this very, very heartfelt appeal. And I must give a disclosure. Bishop Moody, you really pushed me. This has been working for years, as you know, and you really pushed me years ago and told me about the need and said you really need to put something together that can be packaged for people to progressively educate themselves. And so I owe you a lot of credit. And my friend Pastor George Thompson has been a forerunner in creating these resources. So I'm really thankful to have known you guys. But let me tell you what makes the Wealth Track different, why I'm so excited about it. Number one, everything that I'm teaching in the Wealth Track, I've done. These are the things that I've done to go from lack to luster.
I love it.
To go from poverty to prosperity. Okay. So I'm not teaching cookie cutter things in here. And so what the Wealth Track is a video-based curriculum. There are over 50 video lessons in 8 modules. There's 7 complete modules. And then there's a bonus module on how to build a legacy and a legacy plan for your family. But those 7 modules, Bishop Moody, include everything from first getting the right mindset. And when I say the mindset, this is not the psychobabble. This is real intellectual stuff, but behavior transformation. We're going to help you identify why you do what you do from a money standpoint. We start out there so that you can have awareness and get control of it. We're going to help you figure out your money personality and your money script. And then we're going to help you learn how to use that to your advantage. And then we go from that into teaching you the basic principles of how to drastically reduce your expenses and the tools we provide. We give over 30 worksheets and transformational tools and handouts. And each one of them are tools that, again, I use to this day. These are tools that are going to help you drastically reduce your expenses. On average, people who use the Wealth Track, just the expense module alone, have saved on average between $500 on the low end and $1,500 per month using these tools.
That's margin,
we're talking
bro.
Thousands of dollars of margin per year. And then watch this. We don't stop there. We take you from there and then show you what to do with that margin. So progressively, we help you change your mindset. We help you create margin. Then we help you learn what to do with that margin. So there's the module on investing. I promise you this. You will know what it means to invest. You will have your own investment philosophy. You will understand your own risk profile. And you'll be able to have an intelligent conversation after this on exactly what makes you a shrewd investor. Amen. We're going to bless you to be shrewd in the market and be able to pick and underwrite and make informed decisions. But we don't stop there. We talk about real estate investing. We give you tools for investing in real estate and building a rental portfolio. Then we don't stop there. We talk to you about opening a business because I believe, I just said, multiple streams. So the 3 moves for margin is what? Investing in the market, investing in real estate, investing in the business. And we walk you through and give you tools on how to do all those things. And then finally, we seal it off with creating a legacy and leave something for your family, for the future, and for those incredible works that you want to do in the future. Man, I'm excited. I can't wait to change even more lives. And so hopefully guys will find a lot of value in that.
Man, listen, I
That's
am
very
ready to roll it out
comprehensive.
tomorrow. Yeah, that's so good. We're going to make this just
Very
like we've done with Pastor George Thompson's book, The 21-Day Fast Start. We used that in our last fast in the fall. We did a financial fast. His book was the established curriculum. Bishop Salter, we're going to roll this out at the worship center. And so I'm super, super excited about more and more people getting this. Man, I want to thank you for being a part of this podcast. For all of our podcast listeners, I don't even have to ask you if you got anything. I know you did. You're going to have to go back and re-listen to this episode because Pastor George, Bishop Salter were dropping some crazy nuggets, some good stuff, not crazy in a bad way, crazy in a good way. And that's why every time we get a chance to sit at the feet of mavens like them, I get super excited. Bishop Salter, thanks, man, for your time today. I want to tell all of our partners we got some good stuff coming for you. He went over 3 money moves, but he's got some extra stuff that he's going to get into with our partners. But Bishop Salter, I want to thank you for being a part of the Freedom Podcast. George, thanks, man, as well. Bishop Salter, how can people connect with you? We're going to put it in the liner notes, but as we close, what are some of the important ways for people to tag you, follow you, connect with your content?
I would love for you to join me on my website, deandresalter.org. That's deandresalter.org. It's a great launching place for everything. You'll find the wealth track there. You'll find the culture of money there. You'll find we have some great resources there for you on marriage and leadership and finances. But also, you can follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere you want to find at DeAndre Salter. Pretty easy to get a hold of. Would love to connect with you.
Pastor George, where are you, man?
Good. You can always find me at George B. Thompson or ican'tfindgeorge.com. You can always do that. And I'm on social media. And you remember, I'm the world's greatest dad at 1/3 the price.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, family, thanks for being a part of this incredible episode of the Freedom Podcast. And we hope that you would like this podcast, share it with others. And every single month, we are releasing new episodes with fresh content that is designed to take your life to the next level of purpose and fulfillment. So thanks for joining us. And we look forward to being a part of this episode or the future episodes next time. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Freedom Podcast. If you find inspiration, education, or fulfillment in our episodes, consider becoming a partner. Your donation ensures that we will continue delivering quality content alongside some of today's leading experts. Connect with us by becoming a Freedom Friend, a Freedom Champion, or a Freedom Funder. Together, we will continue to produce content that provides hope and healing. Thank you. Your generosity is appreciated.